Hello, my name is Jim Nolan. I'm a certified peer recovery specialist working at Maryland Center of Excellence on problem gambling. As a certified peer recovery specialist, I'm in recovery for gambling myself. And what we do is we try to help individuals that are struggling with this disease. Unfortunately, so much of society believes that somebody that's struggling with gambling, that can't stop gambling, they don't understand or comprehend that it's an addiction, just like any other addiction. Because they don't see the individual taking drugs or alcohol or not putting anything in our body. So why don't you just stop? How can you lose your house? How can you lose your car? How can you go through your children's college fund? As a problem gambler, we go through phases to where we believe the only way out is suicide. We lose ourselves from gambling and we destroy 7 to 10 other people around us, whether it's family, friends, employees, employers, our significant other. We start to believe that they're better off with us dead. The fact is 50% of problem gamblers at one time or another think about that, goes through their mind. 1 out of 6 problem gamblers actually attempt it, as I did, or contemplated at one point in my life. It's an addiction every bit as powerful as drugs or alcohol or any other addiction. And unfortunately, at this date and time, it's so far behind the radar with the other addictions, it's not getting the attention, as it only gets worse with sports betting and everything else introduced into the society these days. So I'm here to let people know that there is help. You can call 1-800-GAMBLER and you can talk to a certified peer recovery specialist that's in recovery for this disease, who can relate to where you are, where you're coming from, and assist you with all kinds of free help, as long as you're a Maryland resident.
Hi, my name is Will Hinman. I'm a certified peer recovery sports specialist and the peer supervisor at the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. I'm also a person in long-term recovery from a gambling addiction, from alcoholism, and of course, mental health. We really encourage people not to gamble when they may be at high risk. I gambled for 23, 24 years. It took that long for my gambling to progress, for me to cross that invisible line. And I had all the high risk factors. I was struggling with substance use. I was struggling with mental health, depression, and anxiety. I was going through a major life transition, major career change. I was separated from my wife because of my alcoholism, so struggling with loneliness, grief, and loss. And I was under financial strain. The only high risk factor I didn't have was that I wasn't under the legal age to gamble. But other than that, I had them all. And bottom line is I had no business gambling at that point. With the increased access we have to gambling now, with the close proximity of the casinos, with the online gambling, that's why we're seeing people hit their bottoms and progress at such a faster rate these days. But for me, it took 23, 24 years. I turned the casino into an escape from my problems. I also, for the first time, turned to gambling as a financial solution. I was having to pay attorneys and watching my savings deplete, like I said, going through a career change. And the worst thing that happened to someone like me is that I won. The first week or two, I was on a hot streak and winning. But as we all know, gambling's a game of runs. And I think anyone that's had a gambling problem knows eventually, once you go cold, it can get bad real quick. It's the most financially destructive addiction out there. And it only takes one night to turn your life upside down. And once we start chasing those losses, it can get real bad real quick. I also think that's why it has the highest risk of suicide. And in the end, I had a plan in place to take my life because I thought I was worth more dead than alive, because I had I have a life insurance policy, and that's the mentality. That's where this thing can take us. So my biggest words of encouragement to anyone that's struggling and is starting to chase their losses, and catch it as quick as you can. There's always another way out. But once we stop turning to gambling as a solution and recognize that it is indeed the problem.
Hi, my name is Kenneth Crawford. I'm from the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. I'm here to tell a little story about how I grew up in a gambling atmosphere with my family. I have a mother that has a gambling disorder. To this day, I take care of her now. She's 80 years old. I was always in that atmosphere. I can remember at the earliest of ages, like at 4 years old, walking down the stairs at the house and seeing a room full of people, and they were playing cards and gambling. I remember her taking me to the casinos, me and my brother, at a very young age. She gave me some money, and it was one of these underground casinos, and I was able to gamble at 12 years old, and guess what? I won $70 on a roulette wheel, and that was very exciting. My parents got a divorce at an early age, mostly because of gambling. I was very influenced by, that feeling of, winning money, and so it kind of stuck with me. And in my later years, I got into playing poker, and I started doing it 24/7, and then got into the casino games, and I couldn't control it. And, I knew I had gambling disorder. It was about this time that my mom, she lost her husband, my stepdad, and she was spending loads of money, but she ended up losing her house. And today I'm in recovery, and so I work at the center here, and it helps me to really give back to, helping other people out. And I'm just grateful to be here.
Hi, my name's Ken Wolfson, and I'm a certified peer support specialist with the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. I'm also a person in long-term recovery from alcohol, drugs, and, of course, compulsive gambling. And I'm here to talk to you today about some of your clients who may have a traumatic brain injury or a concussive disorder. I've had 15 concussions and 4 major traumatic brain injuries, making my life and my recovery very challenging. I had very little concept of who I was, what I stood for, my marriage, my children. I could hardly remember their names or the history I had, for decades with my wife. It was very troubling. Compulsive gambling, when you have a TBI or concussive issue, it's very hard to spot. We don't slur our speech. We're not stumbling. We're not, displaying signs normally. But this is what's going on inside our head is incredibly destructive, and we cannot break away many times until all our money is gone and all our possibility of getting more money is depleted. There was never a time where I put anything above my gambling, because nothing took me further away from my problems and pain than sitting at a blackjack table. Problem with me, and for so many others with TBI, is that once we get in front of a gambling venue, it's almost impossible for us to detach. But I've worked very, very hard for a very long time at recapturing my life. The old Ken, I don't even know who that was hardly anymore. The new Ken is what I've got to work with. The life I have today is beyond my wildest dreams, so I do everything to nurture it, not to sabotage it.
I'm Karen Miller. I'm the Western Maryland Certified Peer Recovery Sports Specialist with the Maryland Center of Excellence on Problem Gambling. For 4 years, I'm in recovery for a 30-year gambling addiction. And all the signs and symptoms of someone with a severe gambling addiction. Lying and not telling my husband the truth about how much money I had spent, and being manipulative, just making sure that I could get out. If I wanted to gamble, I was going to gamble no matter what, and I would lie to do that. I worked at a place where there was a lot of gambling constantly, and so I really got drawn into it, which took me into heavy gambling. I realized that I had a problem when I started manipulating and lying to my husband about how much I was spending. In my position, I worked for cash tips, so I was the only one that knew how much I made, so I was able to lie about how much I was spending very easily. I won a jackpot, and that really took me into a severe frenzy of gambling after I won that jackpot, and that lasted for a decade, where I was out of control. I did not regain control until I finally realized that I had become a person that I didn't like and didn't recognize. I didn't realize that gambling was a disease. And until I found that out, I realized that treatment is effective. Gamblers Anonymous helped me find my path to recovery. Just the people sharing their inspirational stories of hope and their lived experience made me feel like I wasn't alone out here, and that really helped me find my path to recovery. We don't tell people how to recover. We don't push anybody into anything. We're neutral on gambling. We are partners with all of the gambling venues in the state, and the gambling venues don't want to see anybody hurt either. They want to make sure people are keeping it safe and fun. And if they are struggling, the program is here to help them through the center.